The security footage doesn't lie. I'm staring at the screen in my car, hands shaking as I watch my husband Valentino press my boss Bianca against her office desk. The timestamp reads 11:47 p.m., exactly when he told me he was working late at the construction site. The same night I was home, sick with food poisoning, clutching the toilet bowl while he was supposed to be laying concrete. But that's not even the worst part. Behind them, mounted on Bianca's wall like a trophy, is my prototype. My revolutionary water purification system that I spent 3 years perfecting in our garage. The same invention she fired me for stealing company resources to create just 6 hours ago. The same invention that's about to make her millions. I close the laptop and lean back in my driver's seat, parked across from Pinnacle Industries where I used to work. Where I believed I had a future. The rain pounds against my windshield like bullets, and for the first time in my 32 years, I understand what people mean when they say they see red. They took everything. My job, my husband, my life's work. But they made one crucial mistake. They don't know that I know. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. 6 hours earlier, I walked into Bianca's corner office thinking I was getting a promotion. "Sit down, Riley," Bianca said without looking up from her computer. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore when she meant business. The morning sun streaming through her floor-to-ceiling windows cast sharp shadows across her face. I smoothed my skirt and sat in the leather chair across from her mahogany desk. The same desk where I'd presented my water purification breakthrough just 3 months ago. The same desk where she'd shaken my hand and promised me a partnership. "I'm afraid we have to let you go," she said, finally meeting my eyes. The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Effective immediately." She slid a manila envelope across the desk. "Your final paycheck and severance." My mouth went dry. "Bianca, I don't understand. My quarterly reviews have been excellent. The Conrad project just landed us the biggest contract in company history because of my designs." "That's exactly the problem." She leaned back in her chair and I caught something cold in her green eyes that I'd never seen before. "We've discovered you've been using company time and resources for personal projects." "Personal projects?" My voice cracked. "You mean the water purification system? The one I developed here for the company. The one you developed using our equipment, our lab, our electricity." She opened a file folder. "According to our legal team, any invention created using company resources belongs to Pinnacle Industries. Yet you filed the patent under your own name." The room started spinning. "Because you told me to. You said it would be easier to transfer it to the company later. You said." "I have no record of that conversation." Her smile was razor thin. "And unfortunately, without documentation, it's your word against mine." I stared at her, feeling like I was drowning. "This is insane. You know I created that system. You were there for every test, every modification. You celebrated with me when we finally got the filtration rate to 99.7%. Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stood up on shaking legs. "Bianca, please. This job is everything to me. And that invention, it could help millions of people get clean water. We talked about taking it global, remember? Helping communities in 10 minutes, Riley." I walked out of her office in a daze, past the cubicles where my coworkers avoided eye contact. Past the lab where I'd spent countless nights perfecting my formulas. Past the conference room where I'd given presentations that earned the company millions. Security guard Tom Wilson, who I'd chatted with every morning for 4 years, couldn't look at me as he walked me to my car. "I'm sorry, Riley," he whispered as we reached the parking garage. "This doesn't feel right." I drove home to our small house on Willow Lane, my mind reeling. How was I going to tell Valentino? We just bought this place 7 months ago, stretching our budget thin because we believed my promotion was coming. The promotion Bianca had hinted at for weeks. The house was empty when I got there. Valentino's construction crew started early, so he'd already left for the day. I sat at our kitchen table staring at the severance check. 3 months' pay. Enough to cover the mortgage while I looked for another job, but not much else. I called Valentino's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. Something terrible happened at work. Call me when you get this." I love you. Then I called my best friend Meredith. They fired you? Her voice was sharp with disbelief. For what? They're claiming I stole company resources to develop my water system. Bianca's saying she never gave me permission to work on it. But that's insane. You've been talking about that project for months. I remember you telling me how supportive she was. I know. I pressed my fingers against my temples, feeling a headache building. Meredith, what if I can't find another job? What if word gets out that I was fired for theft? My reputation will be ruined. Hey, breathe. We'll figure this out. Do you have any documentation? Emails, texts, anything that proves she approved the project? I thought about it. Maybe. I'll have to check my personal email. Most of our conversations were in person, but there might be something. Good. Start there. And Riley? Don't sign anything they gave you until you talk to a lawyer. After we hung up, I spent the afternoon going through my emails, looking for any proof that Bianca had supported my project. I found a few messages, but nothing definitive. Mostly just her asking for updates and scheduling lab time. Valentino didn't call back. At 6 p.m. I tried him again. Voicemail. At 8 p.m. I texted him, "Where are you? I really need to talk." No response. By 10 p.m. I was worried. Valentino always answered his phone, especially when I called multiple times. I tried calling his foreman Luis. "Hey, Mrs. Brantley." Valentino left the site around noon. Said he had some errands to run. Errands? For 10 hours? I called his brother Emmanuel. "Haven't seen him today, Riley. Everything okay?" I was about to call the hospitals when I heard his truck in the driveway. Relief flooded through me as I heard his key in the lock. "Valentino, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day." He walked into the kitchen and I immediately knew something was wrong. His hair was messed up, his shirt wrinkled. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Sorry, my phone died. Long day. Where were you? Luis said you left at noon." "Had to pick up some supplies. Ran into traffic." He opened the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. "What did you want to talk about?" I told him about getting fired. About Bianca's accusations. About the patent dispute. He listened without saying much, just nodding and drinking his beer. "That sucks," he said when I finished. "But maybe it's for the best. You've been working too much lately." I stared at him. "For the best? Valentino, this was my dream job. And they're stealing my invention." "You'll find something else." He kissed my forehead, but it felt cold. Distant. "I'm beat. Going to bed." He left me sitting alone in the kitchen, feeling more isolated than I'd ever felt in my life. The next morning, Valentino left early again. No goodbye kiss, no coffee together like usual. Just the sound of his truck pulling away while I was still in bed, staring at the ceiling. I spent the day updating my resume and searching job boards, but my heart wasn't in it. Every few minutes, my mind drifted back to Bianca's cold smile and Valentino's strange behavior. Around noon my phone rang. Unknown number. "Riley Brantley?" "Yes. This is Detective Amanda Foster with the Metro Police. I'm calling about a break-in at Pinnacle Industries last night. Your name came up as someone who might have information." My blood turned to ice. A break-in. Someone accessed the building after hours and tampered with several computers in the research department. Security footage shows the person knew the building layout well. "Since you were recently terminated, we need to ask you a few questions." "You think I broke in?" My voice was shrill. "Detective, I was home all night. My husband can vouch for me. We'll need to speak with both of you. Can you come down to the station this afternoon?" After I hung up, I called Valentino immediately. For once he answered. "They think I broke into Pinnacle," I said without preamble. Silence. "Valentino. That's crazy. Why would they think that?" "Because I was just fired and someone who knew the building broke in last night. I need you to tell them I was home." Another pause. "Of course. Yeah, you were home." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "Valentino, I was home, right? You came home around 10:30, we talked about my job, then we went to bed." "Right. Yeah, that's what happened." But he sounded uncertain. Like he was trying to remember. At the police station, Detective Foster was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with graying hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She interviewed us separately. When it was my turn, she got straight to the point. "Where were you between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. last night?" "At home. In bed." "Can anyone verify that?" "My husband." We went to bed together around 11. She made a note. Your husband says he went to bed around 11, but he's not sure what time you came to bed. Says he was very tired and fell asleep quickly. My heart stopped. What? He also mentioned you were upset about being fired. Said you felt the company had stolen your work. I felt like the walls were closing in. Detective, I didn't break into that building. I would never. The security footage is interesting, she continued. The person was wearing a hood so we can't see their face. But they're about your height and build. And they went straight to the research lab where your project was housed. What did they take? That's what's strange. Nothing was taken. But several computers were accessed and files were copied. Specifically, files related to water purification technology. I left the police station feeling sick. Why had Valentino thrown me under the bus? Why couldn't he remember if I was in bed? When I got home, he was waiting in the kitchen with a guilty expression. Riley, I'm sorry. I was just confused. I was really tired last night, and when she asked me those questions, I second-guessed myself. You second-guessed whether your wife was in bed next to you? I take those sleeping pills sometimes, you know that. Everything gets fuzzy. I studied his face. Valentino had never taken sleeping pills in the 5 years we'd been married. What sleeping pills? The ones Dr. Tripp prescribed for my back pain. They make me drowsy. Another lie. Valentino's back was fine. He'd never seen Dr. Tripp for anything except his annual physical. Valentino, what's going on? You're acting so strange. He pulled me into his arms and I caught a whiff of a familiar perfume on his shirt. Something like amber blossom and expensive, the same body spray I do perceive on Bianca. Nothing like the drugstore body spray I used. I'm just stressed about work. The Conrad project is behind schedule and the client's breathing down our necks. He kissed the top of my head. I'm sorry I wasn't more supportive yesterday. Losing your job is huge and I should have been there for you. I wanted to believe him. But something felt wrong. That night I lay awake beside him. When I was sure he was asleep, I carefully got up and went to the bathroom. His phone was charging on the nightstand. I'd never snooped through Valentino's phone before, but the perfume smell and his strange behavior had planted a seed of doubt. His phone was password protected. I tried his birthday, then mine, then our anniversary. Nothing. I wasn't thinking well, maybe I was going crazy. And I did the last thing on my mind. I tried Bianca's birthday. I knew it because the whole office celebrated it every year. And surprisingly, the phone unlocked. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through his messages. Most were work-related or conversations with his brother. But then I found a thread that made my blood freeze. Bianca, can't wait to see you tonight. Same place. Valentino, yes. Riley's working late again. Bianca, perfect. I have something special planned. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. I scrolled up, finding weeks of messages between them. Flirty texts, plans to meet, intimate photos that made me want to throw up. But the worst message was from yesterday, just hours after I'd been fired. Bianca, it's done. She's gone. Now we can move forward with our plans. Valentino, are you sure this will work? Bianca, trust me. By the time the patent goes through, she'll have no legal standing. The invention will belong to Pinnacle and I'll make sure you get your cut. Valentino, what about the break-in? Won't that look suspicious? Bianca, it's perfect cover. Makes it look like she was desperate enough to steal her own work back. Reinforces our narrative that she's unstable. I dropped the phone, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold it. They had planned this. All of it. The firing, the break-in, everything. Valentino stirred in bed. Riley? You okay? I quickly put his phone back and slipped into bed beside him. Just had to use the bathroom. He rolled over and put his arm around me and I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. This man I'd loved and trusted for 5 years had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But I couldn't let him know that I knew. Not yet. I needed a plan. The next morning I waited until Valentino left for work, then drove to a coffee shop across town where I could think clearly. I ordered a large coffee and found a corner table where I could spread out my laptop and notes. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I made a list of everything I knew. 1. Bianca and Valentino were having an affair. 2. They had planned my firing together. 3. Bianca was stealing my patent. 4. Someone had broken into Pinnacle and accessed my files. 5. The police suspected me of the break-in. The break-in bothered me the most. If Bianca already had access to my work, why would someone need to break in? Unless I pulled up the patent database on my laptop and searched for my water purification system. My heart sank when I found it. The patent application had been filed 3 days ago, under Bianca's name. But something was wrong with the technical specifications. Several key components were missing or incorrectly described. The filtration rate was listed as 87% instead of the 99.7% I'd achieved. Someone had filed a patent for an incomplete version of my invention. I called my friend Derek, who worked as a patent attorney downtown. "Riley, good to hear from you. Meredith told me about what happened at Pinnacle. I'm so sorry. Derek, I need your help. Someone filed a patent for my invention, but they got the specifications wrong." "What does that mean legally?" "Well, if they filed for an incomplete or incorrect version and you can prove you developed the complete version first, you might have grounds to challenge it." "Do you have documentation of your work?" "Some. But most of my research was done at Pinnacle." "That's a problem. But if you can prove you had the complete version before they filed their incomplete one, you might have a case." "Do you have any prototypes? Test results? Anything that shows the correct specifications?" I thought about it. "I have a working prototype at home. I built it in my garage using my own materials." "That's good. Very good. When did you build it?" 5 months ago. "I have photos and video of the testing process." "Even better. Riley, I think you might have a strong case here. But you'll need to move fast. Patent disputes can drag on for years if you don't act quickly." After I hung up with Derek, I drove home and went straight to the garage. My prototype was still there, covered by a tarp in the corner. I pulled off the cover and stared at my creation. A sleek metal cylinder about the size of a water heater, connected to a series of filters and monitoring equipment. This machine could purify contaminated water from any source and make it safe to drink. It could help millions of people in developing countries, disaster zones, anywhere clean water was scarce. And Bianca was trying to steal it. I spent the afternoon documenting everything. I took photos from every angle, recorded video of the machine in operation, and gathered all my research notes and test results. Then I had an idea that made my pulse quicken. If Bianca had filed an incomplete patent, she would need the missing specifications to make the system actually work. The break-in at Pinnacle wasn't about stealing files. It was about finding the complete technical data that I'd never fully documented in the company computers. Which meant they still didn't have everything they needed. I grabbed my laptop and started going through my personal files. Sure enough, the most crucial component, the proprietary filter membrane I'd developed, was only documented in my personal notes. The formula was stored on an encrypted drive that I kept at home. Bianca thought she was so clever, but she'd stolen an incomplete invention. My phone buzzed with a text from Valentino. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, feeling a cold fury settle in my chest. He was probably with her right now, trying to figure out why their stolen patent wasn't working. Perfect. I had an idea. That evening, I drove to Pinnacle Industries and parked across the street. Bianca's BMW was still in the executive parking lot, along with Valentino's pickup truck. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I called Meredith. "I need a favor and you're going to think I'm crazy. Try me. I need you to help me break into my old office." Silence. "Riley, what the hell?" "Hear me out. Bianca stole my invention, but she only got part of it. She's going to try to reverse engineer the missing pieces, but I can plant false information that will sabotage her efforts." "This sounds like a terrible idea." "Meredith, she destroyed my career and she's sleeping with my husband. I'm not going to just roll over and let her win." Another pause. "What do you need me to do?" Meredith worked as a freelance graphic designer, but she'd been a computer science major in college. More importantly, she was the only person I trusted completely. "I need you to help me access the company network remotely. I still have my login credentials. They probably haven't deactivated them yet." "And then what?" "I'm going to upload modified technical specifications to my project files. When Bianca tries to build the complete system, it won't work. The filtration rate will be terrible and she'll waste months trying to figure out what's wrong." "Riley, this is corporate sabotage. You could go to prison." "Only if I get caught. And I won't get caught because I'm not actually breaking in. I'm just accessing files that I created." It took me an hour to convince her, but finally Meredith agreed to help. We met at her apartment and she set up a secure connection to Pinnacle's network. "Your credentials still work," she said, typing rapidly. "They really should have deactivated these immediately. Bianca's not as smart as she thinks she is." I spent the next 2 hours carefully modifying my technical documentation. I changed key measurements, altered chemical formulas, and introduced subtle errors that would make the system fail. To anyone who didn't know the correct specifications, the changes would look like minor variations or typos. "This is actually brilliant," Meredith said, watching me work. "It'll take them months to figure out what's wrong, and by then you'll have your patent challenge filed." "Exactly. And while they're wasting time and money trying to make their stolen version work, I'll be building a case to prove the invention is mine." We finished around midnight. As I drove home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in days. Hope. Valentino's truck was in the driveway when I got there. I found him in the kitchen eating leftover pizza and scrolling through his phone. "Hey," he said without looking up. "How was your day?" "Productive. I'm starting to put together a legal challenge to get my patent back." His head snapped up. "A legal challenge? Derek thinks I have a good case. Apparently, whoever filed the patent got some of the specifications wrong." I watched his face carefully. A muscle in his jaw twitched. That's great, honey. I hope it works out." "Me too. It might take a while, but I'm confident I can prove the invention is mine." Valentino nodded, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was probably already planning to text Bianca about this conversation. "I'm exhausted," I said, stretching dramatically. "I think I'll take a hot bath and go to bed early." "Good idea. You've been under a lot of stress." I kissed his cheek. "Good night, Valentino." In the bathroom, I ran the water and added some lavender bath salts. But instead of getting in the tub, I crept back to the bedroom and listened at the door. I could hear Valentino's voice, low and urgent, talking on the phone. "She's filing a legal challenge. No, I don't know what evidence she has. She said the patent specifications were wrong. Bianca, we need to talk." I smiled grimly and went back to the bathroom. Phase 1 was complete. Over the next week, I played the role of the defeated ex-employee perfectly. I moped around the house, applied for jobs half-heartedly, and complained to Valentino about how unfair everything was. Meanwhile, I was secretly building my case. Derek helped me file a formal patent challenge, complete with documentation proving I'd developed the complete system months before Bianca's filing. I also hired a private investigator named Frank Conrad, a grizzled ex-cop who specialized in corporate fraud. "Your husband and your boss, huh?" Frank said when I explained the situation. "That's a double whammy. What do you want me to find?" "Everything. Financial records, communication logs, proof of their affair. I want to know exactly how long this has been going on and whether there are other people involved. This is going to cost you. I have some savings. And when I win this patent dispute, I'll have a lot more." Frank was thorough. Within 3 days, he'd uncovered a paper trail that made my head spin. Bianca had been planning to steal my invention for months. She'd set up a shell company called Aquatech Solutions 4 weeks before I was fired. Valentino was listed as a co-founder with a 30% stake in the company. But the most damning evidence was a series of emails between Bianca and a venture capital firm. She'd been shopping my invention to investors, promising them a revolutionary water purification system that could generate hundreds of millions in revenue. The investors were interested. Very interested. Aquatech had already received a preliminary funding offer of $50 million, contingent on proving the technology worked. "Your husband stands to make $15 million if this goes through," Frank told me. "That's a hell of a motive for betrayal." I stared at the documents spread across his desk. $50 million. No wonder Valentino had been willing to destroy our marriage. "There's more," Frank continued. "I've been monitoring their communications. They're getting desperate. Apparently, they can't get the water purification system to work properly. The filtration rate is way below what they promised investors." I tried to look surprised. "Really?" "Yeah. Bianca's been hiring outside consultants, trying to figure out what's wrong. She's burning through money fast." "How long before the investors get suspicious?" "Not long. They're expecting a working prototype within 2 weeks." "Perfect." That night, Valentino came home looking stressed. His hair was disheveled and there were dark circles under his eyes. Rough day? I asked innocently. Yeah. The Conrad project is falling behind schedule. The client's threatening to pull out. Another lie. I knew from Frank's investigation that the Conrad project had been completed on time. Valentino was stressed about Aquatech, not construction work. I'm sorry, honey. Maybe things will get better soon. He looked at me sharply. What do you mean? Just that bad streaks don't last forever. Something good is bound to happen eventually. Valentino nodded, but he looked unconvinced. The next morning I put the final phase of my plan into motion. I called Bianca's office. Pinnacle Industries, this is Jessica. Hi Jessica, this is Riley Brantley. I know this might sound strange, but I'd like to schedule a meeting with Bianca. Oh. Let me check her calendar. Can I ask what this is regarding? I want to discuss a settlement for my patent dispute. I think we might be able to work something out. 20 minutes later, Jessica called back. Bianca would see me that afternoon at 3 p.m. I spent the morning getting ready. I chose a conservative navy suit and pulled my hair back in a professional bun. I wanted to look defeated but dignified. Like someone who was ready to give up the fight. At exactly 3 p.m., I walked into Bianca's office for the first time since she'd fired me. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was slightly messed and there were stress lines around her eyes. The confident woman who'd destroyed my life was starting to crack. Riley. This is unexpected. Thank you for seeing me, Bianca. I know things ended badly between us. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. The same chair where she'd fired me 2 weeks ago. What can I do for you? I took a deep breath, channeling every acting class I'd ever taken. I want to settle the patent dispute. Her eyes sharpened. Oh. I've been talking to lawyers and they're telling me this could drag on for years. I can't afford a long legal battle and honestly I just want to move on with my life. Bianca leaned back in her chair trying to look casual. But I could see the relief in her posture. What kind of settlement did you have in mind? I'll withdraw my patent challenge in exchange for a licensing fee. Say, 5% of any revenue generated by the water purification technology. 5%. Bianca laughed. Riley, that's ridiculous. The technology belongs to Pinnacle. We developed it using company resources. But you can't make it work, can you? The words hung in the air between us. Bianca's face went pale. I don't know what you mean. Come on, Bianca. I know you've been hiring consultants. I know the filtration rate is nowhere near what you promised your investors. Her mask slipped completely. How do you? Because I'm the one who invented it. And the version you stole is incomplete. Bianca stood up abruptly. This meeting is over. Sit down, Bianca. We're not finished. Something in my tone made her freeze. For the first time since I'd known her, Bianca looked uncertain. I know about Aquatech Solutions, I continued. I know about the $50 million in funding. I know about Valentino. She sank back into her chair like a deflated balloon. What do you want? I want what's mine. My invention, my husband, my life back. Riley, you don't understand. This is bigger than just you and me. There are investors involved, contracts signed. If this deal falls through, you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me. Bianca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went even paler. Problem? I asked. The investors want to see a demonstration tomorrow. They're flying in from California. And you don't have a working prototype. Riley, we can work something out. Name your price. I stood up and smoothed my skirt. I already did. 5%. Plus a public acknowledgement that I'm the original inventor. That's impossible. The contracts with the investors are based on stolen technology. When they find out you've been lying to them, those contracts won't be worth the paper they're printed on. I walked toward the door then turned back. Oh, and Bianca, you might want to tell Valentino that his wife knows about your little affair. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to hear that his $15 million payday just evaporated. I left her sitting there, staring at her phone, probably trying to figure out how to explain to $50 million worth of investors that their revolutionary technology didn't actually work. But I wasn't done yet. The real show was just beginning. I drove straight home and waited. Valentino's truck pulled into the driveway at 4:47 p.m., much earlier than his usual time. I heard him slam the door and stomp up the front steps. He burst into the kitchen where I was calmly making dinner. What the hell did you do? I looked up from chopping vegetables. Hello to you too, honey. How was your day? Don't play games with me, Riley. Bianca called. She said you threatened her. Threatened her? That's interesting. I thought we had a very civil conversation about my stolen patent. And why are you angry when this is between my boss and I? Cut the crap, Riley. Valentino's face was red with anger. Your patent? Riley, you developed that technology at Pinnacle. It belongs to them. Does it? Because from what I understand, they can't seem to make it work properly. That's not the point. Actually, that's exactly the point. I set down my knife and turned to face him fully. Valentino, how long have you been sleeping with my boss? The question hit him like a physical blow. He actually staggered backward. What are you talking about? I found the text messages. I know about Aquatech Solutions. I know about your 30% stake and your $15 million payout. Valentino's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Riley, I can explain. You want to explain how my husband of 5 years decided to destroy my career and steal my life's work for money? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Valentino? Were you planning to divorce me after you got rich off my invention? Or were you just going to keep lying to my face forever? Tears were streaming down my cheeks now, but my voice remained steady. When did it start? Valentino slumped against the kitchen counter. Bianca and I were working on the Conrad project together, and one night it just happened. The Conrad project that you're not even involved in? The Conrad project that's a Pinnacle contract, not a construction job. His face crumpled. How do you know about? I hired a private investigator, Valentino. I know everything. The shell company, the investor meetings, the whole plan to steal my patent. Riley, I never meant for it to go this far. Bianca said it would be easy, that you'd never find out. So this was her idea? She said the patent legally belonged to Pinnacle anyway. She said we were just claiming what was already ours. And the $15 million had nothing to do with it? Valentino couldn't meet my eyes. I thought we could use the money to start over. Maybe move somewhere nice, buy a bigger house. With money stolen from my invention? It wasn't stealing. You developed it at Pinnacle. Using my own formula that I created at home. I screamed, finally losing my composure. The membrane technology that makes the system actually work? That's mine, Valentino. I developed it in our garage using materials I bought with my own money. Valentino stared at me. What are you talking about? The patent Bianca filed is incomplete. It's missing the key component that makes the filtration rate actually work. That's why your investors are going to be very disappointed tomorrow. Tomorrow. The demonstration. Bianca didn't tell you? The California investors are flying in to see your revolutionary technology in action. Valentino's phone started ringing. Bianca's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, I said. I'd love to hear this conversation. Valentino hesitated, then swiped to accept the call. Bianca. Even from across the kitchen I could hear her panicked voice through the speaker. Valentino, we have a problem. The investors moved up their timeline. They want to see the demonstration tonight, not tomorrow. They're already on their way to the lab. Tonight? But we don't have. I know we don't have a working prototype. That's the problem. Riley was right. The system doesn't work without the missing specifications. Valentino looked at me desperately. Can't we postpone? No. If we postpone, they'll know something's wrong. We'll lose the funding, and worse, they might investigate our claims. Valentino, if they find out we lied about the technology. What happens if they find out you lied? I called out loudly enough for Bianca to hear. Silence on the other end of the line. Riley. Bianca's voice was small. Hello, Bianca. Having trouble with your stolen invention? Riley, please. We can work something out. Whatever you want. I already told you what I want. But I don't think you're in a position to negotiate anymore. Valentino was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Riley, what are you going to do? I smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it felt genuine. I'm going to give those investors exactly what they came to see. I walked into the Pinnacle Industries research lab carrying a large duffel bag. Bianca and Valentino were already there, along with 3 men in expensive suits who could only be the investors. Gentlemen, Bianca said with forced cheerfulness, I'd like you to meet Riley Brantley, our lead researcher on the water purification project. The tallest investor, a silver-haired man named Robert, stepped forward. Ms. Brantley, we're very excited to see your technology in action. Bianca has told us remarkable things about the filtration capabilities. Has she? I set my bag down on the lab table. What exactly did she tell you? 99.7% purification rate from any water source, said the second investor, a younger man with wire-rimmed glasses. If that's accurate, this could revolutionize water treatment globally. I glanced at Bianca, who was standing rigid beside the lab's water purification setup. A sad, incomplete version of my invention that looked impressive but didn't actually work. Well, I said, unzipping my duffel bag, let's find out if it's accurate. I pulled out components from my home prototype: the real filtration membrane, the correct catalyst mixture, and the proprietary sensors I'd developed. Bianca's eyes widened as she realized what I was doing. Riley, what are you? I'm giving these gentlemen the demonstration they came for. I began connecting my components to the existing setup. You see, there's been a small misunderstanding about this technology. The third investor, a woman with short black hair, looked confused. What kind of misunderstanding? Well, I said, continuing to work. Bianca filed a patent for this system, but she seems to have left out some crucial components. The version she's been trying to show you has a filtration rate of about 60%. Impressive, but not exactly revolutionary. 60%? Robert's voice was sharp. Bianca, you told us 99.7. Bianca's face was pale. There were some technical difficulties with the prototype. We're still working out the bugs. Bugs? I laughed, connecting the final component. Bianca, you can't work out bugs in technology you don't understand. This system requires a specific membrane that I developed using a proprietary formula. Without it, you're just running water through expensive filters. I turned to the investors. Would you like to see how it actually works? The woman nodded eagerly. Please. I had prepared for this moment. Earlier that day, I'd collected water samples from 3 sources: tap water, pond water from the park, and water I'd deliberately contaminated with bacteria and chemicals. Let's start with something challenging, I said, pouring the contaminated water into the system's input chamber. The liquid was brown and cloudy, clearly unsafe to drink. I activated the system with my components installed. The machine hummed to life, and within minutes, crystal clear water began flowing from the output valve. The system monitors contamination levels in real time, I explained, pointing to the display screen. As you can see, we started with water containing E. coli, heavy metals, and various chemical pollutants. The output shows 99.8% purification. Robert took a sample of the output water and examined it closely. This is remarkable. The clarity is perfect. Feel free to test it, I said. I have portable testing kits if you'd like to verify the results. For the next 30 minutes, the investors ran every test they could think of. The results were consistently excellent. The system performed exactly as I'd promised. This is incredible, the woman said. Ms. Brantley, this technology could help millions of people. That's always been my goal, I replied. Clean water shouldn't be a luxury. Robert turned to Bianca. I'm confused. Why were you having technical difficulties if the system works this well? Bianca opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because, I said calmly, Bianca doesn't actually own this technology. The lab fell silent. I'm sorry. Robert's voice was dangerously quiet. Bianca fired me 2 weeks ago and filed a patent for my invention. But she only had access to the incomplete specifications. The key components, the ones that make the system actually work, were developed by me at home using my own resources. I pulled out my phone and showed them photos of my garage workshop. I've been working on this technology for 3 years. I have documentation, test results, and video evidence of every stage of development. The investors looked at each other, then at Bianca. Is this true? The woman asked. Bianca's composure finally cracked completely. It's complicated. Riley did work on the project, but she used company resources. I used company lab space to test prototypes, I interrupted. But the core technology is mine. The membrane formula, the catalyst mixture, the sensor algorithms, I developed all of that independently. I turned to Valentino, who had been standing silently in the corner. Isn't that right, Valentino? Valentino looked like he wanted to disappear. Tell them about the garage, Valentino. Tell them about all those nights I spent working on the filtration system while you watched TV. She did work on it at home, Valentino admitted quietly. Robert's face was turning red. Bianca, are you telling me that Aquatech Solutions is based on stolen intellectual property? It's not stolen. The patent. The patent is fraudulent, I said. I've already filed a legal challenge with documentation proving I developed this technology first. Bianca knew she didn't have the complete specifications, but she filed anyway, hoping she could reverse engineer the missing pieces. I gestured to the lab setup. How's that working out for you? The woman investor was furious. Bianca, we've already transferred $5 million to Aquatech as a good faith payment. If this technology doesn't legally belong to your company, we want our money back, Robert said coldly. Immediately. And we'll be conducting a full investigation into your business practices, added the third investor. If we find evidence of fraud. Wait. Bianca's voice was desperate. Riley, we can work this out. You said you wanted 5%. That was before you tried to demonstrate my stolen technology to investors, I replied. The offer's off the table. I began disconnecting my components from the lab setup. Without them, the system immediately stopped working properly. What are you doing? Bianca asked. Taking my technology home. Where it belongs. I packed my components back into the duffel bag while the investors watched in stunned silence. Gentlemen, I said, shouldering the bag, if you're interested in licensing this technology from its actual inventor, you can contact my attorney, Derek Conrad. I'm sure we can work out a fair deal. I handed Robert my business card. Unlike some people, I believe in honest business practices. As I walked toward the lab exit, Bianca grabbed my arm. Riley, you can't do this. I'll be ruined. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then met her eyes. You should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me. I shook off her grip and walked out of the lab, leaving behind the wreckage of Bianca's scheme and Valentino's betrayal. But I wasn't finished yet. The next morning I woke up in a hotel room downtown. I'd checked in the night before, unable to face going home to the house I'd shared with Valentino. My phone had been buzzing all night with calls and texts from both of them, but I'd turned it off. When I finally powered it back on, I had 37 missed calls and dozens of messages. Valentino, Riley, please come home. We need to talk. Valentino, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Valentino, the investors are threatening to sue. Bianca's having a breakdown. Bianca, Riley, you've made your point. Let's discuss terms. Bianca, I'm willing to give you 50% of Aquatech. Bianca, Riley, please respond. We can fix this. I deleted all the messages without reading the rest and called Derek. Riley, I've been trying to reach you. What the hell happened last night? I gave the investors a demonstration of my technology. The real version, not Bianca's stolen knockoff. And they're pulling their funding from Aquatech and threatening to sue for fraud. Derek was quiet for a moment. Riley, that's brilliant. By proving your technology works while theirs doesn't, you've essentially proven your patent claim. That was the idea. But there's something else. I got a call this morning from Robert's legal team. They want to discuss licensing your technology directly. My heart jumped. Seriously. Very seriously. They're talking about $100 million deal, Riley. You could be set for life. $100 million. More money than I'd ever dreamed of. There's just one problem, Derek continued. Bianca's threatening to claim that you sabotaged Pinnacle's version of the technology. She's saying you deliberately gave them false specifications. I smiled. Let her try to prove that. Can she? Derek, I never gave Pinnacle any specifications. I worked on prototypes in their lab, but all my documentation was kept on my personal drives. If Bianca has incorrect specifications, it's because she stole incomplete information. That's what I hoped you'd say. Riley, I think we've got them dead to rights. After I hung up with Derek, I drove to Frank Conrad's office. The private investigator was waiting with a thick folder of documents. Your husband and Bianca have been busy, he said, spreading papers across his desk. After the investors pulled out last night, they've been scrambling to cover their tracks. What do you mean? Valentino tried to withdraw his name from Aquatech's corporate filings. Bianca's been deleting emails and financial records. They're in full panic mode. Frank pulled out a series of bank statements. But here's the interesting part. Bianca's been moving money around for weeks. She transferred $2 million from Pinnacle's research budget to Aquatech's accounts. She embezzled company funds? Looks like it. And your husband knew about it. I have records of him helping her set up offshore accounts. I stared at the documents. Bianca hadn't just stolen my invention. She'd been stealing from Pinnacle Industries too. Frank, I need you to take all of this to the FBI. The FBI? This isn't just patent theft anymore. It's corporate fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Bianca's been running a criminal enterprise. Frank grinned. Now you're talking my language. That afternoon I finally went home. Valentino's truck was in the driveway and I could see him pacing in the living room through the front window. I walked in to find him on the phone, his voice desperate. Bianca, we have to come clean. Riley's not going to back down, and if the FBI gets involved. He saw me and quickly hung up. Riley, thank God. We need to talk. Yes, we do. I sat down on the couch and looked at the man I'd been married to for 5 years. Valentino, I want you to pack your things and leave. Riley, please. I know I screwed up, but we can work through this. Work through this. I laughed bitterly. Valentino, you conspired to steal my life's work. You helped Bianca embezzle money from her own company. You've been lying to me for months. I never meant for it to go this far. Bianca said it would be simple. Stop blaming Bianca. You made your choice when you decided $15 million was worth more than our marriage. Valentino's face crumpled. I love you, Riley. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you never would have done this. I stood up and walked to the window. The FBI is going to want to talk to you, Valentino. Bianca's been embezzling money and you helped her hide it. You're looking at serious federal charges. What? Valentino's voice was barely a whisper. Did you really think you could steal millions of dollars and no one would notice? Riley, I didn't know about the embezzlement. Bianca never told me. Your signature is on the bank documents, Valentino. You helped set up the offshore accounts. Valentino sank into a chair, his face pale. What's going to happen to me? That depends on how cooperative you are with the investigation. I turned to face him. There's one thing you can do to help yourself. Anything. Tell the FBI everything. Every conversation with Bianca, every document you signed, every lie you told. Give them everything they need to build a case against her. And if I do that, maybe they'll go easy on you. Maybe you'll only get a few years instead of decades. Valentino stared at me like I was a stranger. You really hate me, don't you? No, Valentino. I don't hate you. I pity you. I walked toward the stairs. I want you gone by tomorrow. Leave your key on the kitchen table. Where will I go? That's not my problem anymore. As I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, my bedroom now, I heard Valentino start to cry. I felt nothing. 3 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Bianca Hartwell being led away in handcuffs. The trial had been swift and decisive. The FBI's investigation had uncovered a web of fraud that went far beyond my stolen patent. Bianca had been embezzling from Pinnacle Industries for over 2 years, using the money to fund her lavish lifestyle and failed business ventures. Valentino had testified against her in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'd received 3 years in federal prison for conspiracy and money laundering. Bianca got 15 years for embezzlement, fraud, and racketeering. Justice served, Derek said, sitting beside me in the courtroom gallery. It doesn't feel like justice, I replied. It feels like waste. All those lives destroyed for money. You did the right thing, Riley. Bianca would have kept stealing if you hadn't stopped her. I nodded, but I felt hollow. Winning didn't bring back the months of anguish, the sleepless nights, the betrayal that had cut so deep I wasn't sure I'd ever trust anyone again. After the sentencing, I drove to my new office downtown. The licensing deal with Roberts Investment Group had gone through, and I now owned a company called Aquapure Technologies. We were already in talks with humanitarian organizations about deploying water purification systems in refugee camps and disaster zones. I sat alone in my office thinking about the ripple effects of Bianca's crimes. How many other people had she hurt? How many careers had she destroyed to protect her schemes? My phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Saw the news about the sentencing. How are you holding up? I typed back. Better than I expected. Want to grab dinner tonight? Absolutely. I have news to share. That evening Meredith and I met at our favorite restaurant downtown. She was practically glowing with excitement. Okay, spill, I said as we sat down. What's your news? I got a job offer. A really good one. That's fantastic. Where? Aquapure Technologies. Apparently they need a graphic designer for their marketing materials. I nearly choked on my water. Meredith, I own Aquapure Technologies. I know. He grinned. I was hoping you'd hire your best friend. Are you serious? You want to work for me? Riley, you're about to change the world with this technology. I want to be part of that. Plus, someone needs to make sure you don't work yourself to death. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You're hired. But I'm warning you, I'm a terrible boss. I doubt that. You're the most ethical person I know. As we talked about her new role, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine happiness. Not the bitter satisfaction of revenge but real joy about the future. There's something else, Meredith said as we finished our meal. I heard Valentino's been trying to contact you. My smile faded. He writes letters from prison. I don't read them. Maybe you should. Not for him but for you. Closure and all that. I shook my head. I don't need closure from Valentino. I need to move forward. But that night, alone in my apartment, I found myself thinking about those unread letters. They sat in a box in my closet, still sealed. Part of me was curious about what Valentino had to say, but a bigger part of me was afraid that reading them would reopen wounds that were finally starting to heal. I stood on a dusty hillside in Kenya, watching as our latest water purification unit came online. The machine hummed quietly as it transformed contaminated groundwater into clean, safe drinking water for the village below. The flow rate is perfect, said Dr. Amara Okafor, the local health coordinator. This will serve 3,000 people. And it's completely self-sustaining, I added. Solar-powered with minimal maintenance requirements. Children from the village had gathered around the output valve, laughing as crystal-clear water flowed into their containers. An elderly woman approached me with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said in accented English. My granddaughter will never know what it's like to be sick from bad water. I felt my own eyes welling up. This was why I'd fought so hard to protect my invention. Not for money or recognition but for moments like this. My phone buzzed with a message from Maria. The documentary crew wants to schedule your interview for next week. Also, Time magazine called about the cover story. I'd become something of a reluctant celebrity over the past year. Aquapure Technologies had deployed water purification systems in 43 countries, providing clean water to over 2 million people. The media loved the story of the betrayed inventor who'd turned personal tragedy into global good. But I tried not to think about the past anymore. Bianca was serving her sentence in federal prison. Valentino had been released after 18 months and was reportedly working construction in another state. I'd heard through mutual friends that he'd tried to contact me several times, but I'd made it clear through my lawyer that I wanted no communication. Some wounds heal. Others leave scars that remind you to be more careful. Riley. Dr. Okafor touched my arm. The village elders want to thank you personally. I followed her down the hillside to where a group of older men and women had gathered. They spoke in Swahili, which Dr. Okafor translated. They're naming the well after you. The Riley Spring, they're calling it. I was speechless. In all my dreams of success, I'd never imagined having a well named after me in a Kenyan village. Tell them I'm honored, I managed to say. And tell them this is just the beginning. We're going to bring clean water to every community that needs it. As the sun set over the African landscape, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed me had ultimately led to something beautiful. Bianca's greed had inadvertently helped me find my true purpose. I pulled out my phone and called Meredith, who was back in our Chicago headquarters. How did it go? She asked. Perfect. The system is working flawlessly and the community is thrilled. That's wonderful. Oh, and Riley? I have some interesting news. What kind of news? Bianca's been trying to contact you from prison. She wants to apologize. I was quiet for a long moment. watching the last rays of sunlight reflect off the clean water flowing from my invention. What did you tell her? That you're too busy changing the world to look backward. I smiled. That's exactly right. So what's next? The team in Bangladesh is ready for their installation, and we have 3 new sites identified in Guatemala. Next we keep going. There are still 800 million people without access to clean water. We have work to do. As I hung up the phone, I realized that Bianca and Valentino had given me an unexpected gift. Their betrayal had forced me to fight for what was mine, and in doing so, I discovered that my invention was meant for something much bigger than corporate profits. I looked back at the village, where families were gathering around the new well with their water containers. Children were playing in the clean water, splashing and laughing as their parents filled jugs for cooking and drinking. This was my revenge. Not the destruction of my enemies, but the creation of something beautiful from the ashes of their betrayal. Every person who drank clean water because of my technology was proof that good could triumph over greed. Bianca had tried to steal my invention for money. Instead, she'd helped me give it to the world. I walked back toward the well where the village children were still playing. One little girl, maybe 6 years old, ran up to me with a cup of water. "For you," she said in English, offering me the cup. I knelt down and accepted the water, taking a sip of the clean, pure liquid that my technology had created. Tasted like victory. Not the bitter victory of revenge, but the sweet victory of purpose fulfilled. "Thank you," I told the little girl. "Thank you for reminding me why this matters." As night fell over the Kenyan countryside, I sat by the well and watched the stars emerge in the clear sky. Somewhere back in America, Bianca was in a prison cell, and Valentino was trying to rebuild a life he'd destroyed for money that never materialized. But I was here, surrounded by grateful families and clean water, building something that would outlast all of us. In the end, the best revenge wasn't destroying my enemies. It was proving them irrelevant.